Hello everybody and welcome back to my kitchen. The day is Monday and we are making roast. I am so happy that you've decided to join me again for my week of budget-friendly dinners. Now, I would call this rubber chicken. It is when you take, in this case a chicken, and spread it out over as many meals as you can. It sounds gross, but it tastes delicious. So you can have rubber beef or rubber pork. It's quite a fun game for, I guess, weirdos like me. I really enjoy seeing how far I can make things stretch, and this chicken went a long way, I can tell you, and all of the meals tasted delicious. So I've made a roast chicken with potatoes, roasted pumpkin, Yorkshire puddings, and some of those mixed vegetables on the side. And the gravy. And I will show you here in a minute an adult's portion and a child's portion. And just know that my husband went back for seconds every single night this week. He usually does. So this food that I bought went a long, long way. Here is an adult's portion. And here is a child's portion. Now on Tuesday we had chicken, gravy and cheese sandwiches on homemade bread. And for dinner, we had leftover pie. I love this leftover pie. That is all the pumpkin that I had left over. So I'm putting half of that in the pie. And this is the potatoes and mixed veg that was left over. So all of those potatoes are going in half of the veg. And this is all the chicken that I had left over from that pie, even after my husband went back for seconds. So a third of that is going in this pie. This is a pastry I made earlier in the day out of flour, salt, and butter. So I'm just rolling it out, cutting out the size I want with a dinner plate, laying it on a tray, and then I'm going to dump all of my pie ingredients on the top and lay that second piece of pastry over the top. So you don't even need a pie dish or anything. You don't need special pieces of kit to be able to make pies. And I wouldn't even say it's easier to have a pie dish, if I'm honest. I would say this is definitely easier than making it with a traditional pie dish. And look at that beautiful pie. It was delicious, better than the actual roast, I have to say. So on Wednesday, we had leftover pie and the mash. My husband had a fried egg on the top of his. And for dinner, we're having frittata. Now, I'd really like to know, do you guys eat frittata? Is it in your regular meal rotation? And do you call it frittata? Because when we were kids, we always called it farmhouse omelette. And when I became an adult and moved out of home, nobody knew what I was talking about when I talked about farmhouse omelette. They all call it frittata. So what do you call it and do you eat it? Let me know in the comments below. So I'm using another third of that chicken, all of the leftover pumpkin and mixed veg. And we're going to have mashed potatoes on the side. Note that I am keeping all of my potato peels in one Snaplock bag in the freezer, and all of my onion, carrot, all of my other vegetable scraps in another Snaplock bag in the freezer. You'll find out about that a little bit later on. And another thing to note here about special pieces of kitchen equipment is that for frittata you do need a pan with a lid. Please do not run off and buy a pan with a lid if you do not have one. I am using an oven tray. Just take an oven tray and place it on the top and it will do exactly the same thing that a lid would do. So I am sautéing this cabbage in some butter with garlic. Here I'm just checking that the top is cooked. If the top is cooked, then it's done. If it's cooked on the top, then it's cooked all the way through. You don't have to cook it anymore. I love cabbage just lightly sautéed with a little bit of garlic and butter. It is the best. And also with these mashed potatoes, obviously I don't have any milk, so I'm just using water and butter. These are the portion sizes. And now we're on to Thursday with homemade pumpkin soup and bread. And for dinner, we had lentil bolognese. Now, this lentil bolognese was a hard sell to my family. It's not that we've never had it before, because we do have it sometimes. It's just that my family really, really, really loves meat. So whenever I mention that we might not be having meat for a dinner that night, the mood at the table is always a little bit yeah, you know what I mean. My family likes meat. They don't want to hear about anything vegetarian. But I do have to say, this particular recipe, I should say, is different from the recipe I normally make for lentil bolognese. And they actually didn't complain about it, and my husband still went back for seconds. That's not really saying much. He would go back for seconds even if he hated it. But my kids didn't even complain about it, which is unusual. They didn't complain about it more than they normally complain about eating dinner anyway. So I'm just taking the spaghetti and dumping it straight into the sauce. You want to get some of that pasta water in your sauce because it helps thicken and emulsify and generally make the sauce better. So our kids ate later. They were out with their grandfather at the minute and they came home for dinner afterwards, and that is how much is left over, and that is an adult-sized portion. So on Friday for lunch, we had bubble and squeak with bread, and my husband has an egg on the top of his bubble and squeak. And for dinner, we had fish cakes. I love making fish cakes. I have made fish cakes with just about every kind of fish you can think of: fresh, tinned, smoked, leftover cooked fish, frozen fish. They never look good. They are just ugly by design, but they always taste good. So I cooked my fish cakes in the air fryer this time. If you don't have an air fryer, just cook them in the oven, the regular oven, or even in a frying pan is fine as well. And now I'm making up the coleslaw, keeping all of those scraps. Now, this is some mayonnaise that I made with an egg and some cooking oil. So cooking oil, salt, and pepper were my 3 ingredients that I did not include in the grocery haul because I assume most people will have it. So let me know if you think I cheated. On Saturday, we had leftover fish cakes and coleslaw on homemade tortillas. And for dinner, we had baked potatoes with some of the leftover lentils. So I put these potatoes on earlier in the day. And now I've just come back and I'm scooping out the middles, mashing it with a little bit of butter and some of the leftover lentils, and then filling them potatoes back up. I loved baked potatoes. This is another one of those things, they never look good, like attractive, I mean. They look tasty. They don't look attractive on the plate, but they always taste good. Like, you can't screw it up. Now it's Sunday, so for lunch we're having leftover lentils, and for dinner we're having chicken lasagna. We were going to be having chicken soup, but I changed my mind at the last minute. So there is the chicken carcass that has been in the freezer. Here are all my veg scraps from during the week. I kept all of them. They're all going into a pot to make a stock. The stock was going to be the base for the soup. Now it is going to be the base for, it's actually a leftover chicken casserole recipe, and I am going to use it to make a lasagna. So these are the leftover lentils for lunch, and we have 2 halves of a baked potato. My kids each only ate 1 half for dinner. So here I'm back making up the chicken casserole, and you're going to see later how I'm going to turn it into a lasagna. And I hope that too many of you do not get angry with me when you see the pasta that I'm going to use to make the lasagna. So I'm making up a roux at the minute. Oh, that's the leftover chicken that's also been in the freezer. So I'm making up a roux, but because I don't have any milk, I'm using the chicken stock that I made with the carcass, and I'm layering it in a dish. Well, I'm going to layer it in a dish any minute now. And I'm just laying a layer of spaghetti over the top. I have seen it done, and it was delicious. Alright, here I am at the end of my week, and this is everything that I've got left over. I'll give you a quick run through of everything that there is. I've got an onion, I've got, well, I used 4 Oxon cubes. How many? There's 12 in the box and I've used 4. I've got about half a bowl of garlic. I have got about 175 grams of butter. I've got these potato peelings. If you think that I'm mental, just know that there's method to my madness, and you're going to find out about it shortly. I've got about 1/4 of the bag of mixed veg, 5 eggs. I used about 1/3. See that? About 1/3 of the jar of yeast. I've got half the pastry that I didn't use and the offcuts of the half that I did use. I kept it all. I've got just a little bit of cheese left. I have got 2 tins of cannellini beans. So what happened is 1 tin was supposed to go in the frittata and I forgot. And the other tin was supposed to go in the soup, but I changed my mind at the last minute and we didn't end up having soup. So I ended up with both tins of cannellini beans. Then I've got, I don't even know, that much flour left. I don't know what that would be in grams. I've got quite a lot of plain flour left. Then in here I have got about 1/3 or 1/4 of a loaf of bread. Then I have got in here is the leftover stock that I made last night for the casserole, and then I have got this, which is the leftover lasagna that we will be having for lunch today. But there is not quite enough lunch to go around all 4 of us. You see, I've got that much lasagna left over. It looks like half, but it's actually not, because this section kind of fell in on itself. It's about roughly 1/3 of the lasagna left, and that's not going to be enough for all of us, so I need to come up with a meal from what's left over here. Now what I think I'm going to do is I've got my onion, my garlic, my butter, my chicken stock, my veg stock, some flour and some potato peels. And some bread. I need to use that bread. That's the last day I can have bread. So what I think I'm going to do is, well, I could actually just have eggs on toast, but I'm going to make soup with potato peels. Now, this sounds mental, and I have started to call this mock mushroom soup, because every time I would call it potato peel soup, somebody in my friends and
group or in my family would hear me say to the kids when they ask, oh, we're having potato peel soup for lunch today, and twice I've had somebody come up to me and say, are you okay financially? Do you need some help? And while I'm grateful that I do have lovely friends and family members that would take care of me in that situation, we are okay. It's just that potato peel soup is actually rather delicious. It's just got an off-putting name. I realize this is rather a hard sell, but it tastes like mushrooms. It tastes like mushroom soup. So I call it mock mushroom soup so that people don't think we're having a really hard time and start worrying about us. So if you want my mock mushroom soup recipe, I'll make that in another video. But for now, you can see that we made 7 days worth of dinner and lunch and have all these leftovers for $74. Nothing like what that other guy had in his 72 or whatever it was dollar shop for his fruits and vegetables. 7 days worth of dinner and lunch. And to be honest, we've been having the bread, we've been eating that for breakfast as well. We've been having toast. So while I couldn't stretch all of this to breakfast, maybe I probably could if I sat down and thought about it really, really hard. Just a couple of extra ingredients. I possibly could have stretched this to breakfast for a week. Anyway, that's not the point. This is what we've managed to do. If you want to know about the mock mushroom soup, I will put that in another video. Thank you for watching me this far. If you made it all the way to the end, I really, really appreciate it.